Welcome to Hindu Infopedia. The series analyzes how UN has tried destabilization policies across the world. As there is a political development in India that requires immediate attention, we had to halt the series to discuss the call to Gen Z by an opposition leader. Today, we explore a critical shift in South Asia's geopolitical landscape, the activation of the destabilization doctrine. This isn't a theory anymore. It's an unfolding reality, a doctrine once deployed abroad that now appears to be taking root inside Bharat itself. In earlier analyses, we saw how America's foreign policy of engineered regime shifts, from Afghanistan to Ukraine, from Sri Lanka to Bangladesh, has begun to echo back home. But the new development is far more direct. What began as an external tool of influence has entered its operational phase within India. The shift is visible in coordinated youth mobilization, in political signaling, and in the replication of the same playbook tested across South Asia. This marks the point where analysis ends and operations begin. To understand what's unfolding, we must revisit the template, the tested sequence that toppled 3 governments in just 18 months. In Sri Lanka, during 2022, economic crisis became the trigger. The youth-branded Aragale protests occupied streets for months until the president fled. In Bangladesh, during 2024, student protests over a quota system escalated rapidly into regime collapse. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina left the country within 30 days. Preparations had been years in the making, with over $1.7 billion of civil society funding building the infrastructure for change. In Nepal, by late 2025, anti-corruption protests turned violent. 72 people died and Prime Minister KP Oli resigned. Across these nations, one constant remained, the framing of Gen Z as the authentic face of democracy, while coordination and funding quietly flowed beneath. The doctrine follows 5 clear phases: the trigger, escalation, paralysis, international intervention, and eventual collapse, all within roughly 90 days. Now, that same template is adapting to Bharat's complexity. Unlike smaller states, India already has the infrastructure, vast NGO networks, academic cells, media channels, and digital activism grids built over decades. The farmers' protests of 2020 to 2021 exposed the sophistication of this coordination, from global hashtags and embassy protests to pre-written toolkits. That network didn't dissolve, it evolved. Today, it operates through 6 interconnected fronts: NGO funding pipelines, media amplification, academic and youth mobilization, social media coordination, legal warfare, and religious mobilization networks. Each vector sustains the others, forming a multi-domain system of influence ready for activation. And activation requires only triggers. These can take many forms: alleged electoral manipulation, communal flashpoints, economic grievances like inflation or unemployment, or renewed farmer agitations. When multiple triggers ignite at once, the goal isn't policy change, it's paralysis. The emerging strategy uses simultaneous activation, delegitimizing elections, inflaming religious tensions, fueling economic anger, and remobilizing protest networks, all backed by global media attention. This overloads the state, creates confusion, and paints a narrative of crisis. It's the same model that dismantled 3 governments in 18 months, refined, digitized, and now calibrated for India's scale. The activation of the destabilization doctrine is no longer a distant theory. It's here, visible in the narratives, networks, and mobilizations that shape our national discourse. Bharat's challenge is to recognize this phase, understand its architecture, and respond with awareness,